Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Your voices are so soft. Is it the cold?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Tsimo. I'm gonna do 2 songs for you today. The first song is called Be My Friend. You remind me of better days, better ways. I never face, by the way. You love on me, stay on me, gotta be here with me, evergreen, ever be, you and me. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. Just 2 of us. I love the way you smile in your eyes on me. Just 2 of us, living in paradise. All is nice. You remind me of better days, better ways. I never face, by the way. You love on me, stay on me, gotta be. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. Oh, be my friend, be my friend, be my friend. I remember it was a friend of mine who we were actually not allowed to join the choir until we were in high school, but we were forced the choir teacher to audition us. We were still in primary school at the time, and she didn't want to go alone. So I had no plans of going, but we made it. And that was the first time I ever sang. Before that, I was writing poetry. And I guess because of that, I got into the whole songwriting thing, and then I was writing for groups that were forming around locally, and that's how I got into it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And what has been the highlight of your career so far?
The highlight, I guess, last year was really when I got into house music, and I started working a lot with a lot of Afro house labels. And I got to, for the first time, perform in another country because of my music. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
That was amazing. And to also get recognized by someone who I really respect. I've just recently gotten one of the songs that I've written playlisted by Black Coffee. So yeah.
If you pick one artist internationally or locally, who would you collaborate with? You've done a lot of collaborations already.
Yeah, I'd really love to work with Black Coffee. I think besides the fact that he's in a genre that I really love, he is an all-round artist, and I think he just has so much knowledge. I'd really love to just sit with him in a room and listen to what he has to say. The second song is called Love Like You Do. I wrote the song for my son. He was 2 years old when I wrote the song. And I was just in awe of how children are able to love so effortlessly and so purely. So this was for him. His name is Thuthukani.
Touch you, the wounds till they're gone. My broken pieces have scattered so far. You pull them together, you do. Oh yeah, I wanna love like you do, love like you do. Like you do, love like you do, love like you do. Oh yeah, love like you do. 'Cause I wanna love like you do, love like you do, love like you do. See your love glitters in gold, like stardust to brightens my soul. When I'm with you, I want to know how it feels to love like you do. Open my arms with every touch you, wounds till they're gone. My broken pieces have scattered so far. You pull them together, you do. Oh, you do. I wanna love like you do, 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 love like you do. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, love like you do. Oh yeah, like you do.
Thank you.
Thuthukani, known as TK, is a Zimbabwean author, poet, immersive media enthusiast, digital artist, freelance graphic designer, marketing strategist, as well as an art curator. Let's give it up for Thuthukani.
Cool. Thank you for the introduction. Much appreciated. As stated, my name is Thuthukani, but everyone else calls me TK. And I'm going to be sharing 2 pieces, and I hope you enjoy them. She cannot afford to see a therapist. She sees poetry. Frequently consults a crimson pen and vents a black diary. When she fails to drown, her misdiagnosed depression again. When it learns how to swim, not dissolve like the white bitter pills she swallows, we watch her regurgitate her life into open mics that never close like most of the wounds most of us are breathing through. We watch her poetry slam and expose her words on naked stages, turning them into broken mirrors. Her reflection cannot hide the satisfaction she craves and receives from our snaps. Poetry is therapeutic. But we are not therapists. Our snaps, our unrhythmic snaps, are not strong enough to snap her out of her bad dream since its inception. So she continues to write, recite, regurgitate her life on poetry nights. She slams her words in competitions and open mics. She writes, recites, regurgitates her life on poetry nights. She slams her words at competitions and open mics. This poem is not about a poet who can't afford to see a therapist. I wonder if the audience can afford therapy too. Thank you. Yeah, I'm an author. Published. The book is called My Poetic Collage. I'm always advised to speak less about it because I tend to say more negative than positive things.
Okay.
About it, ironically. No, but it was a nice accomplishment. It was just when COVID had started, that's when I published it or launched it. And yeah, it was an interesting process. I enjoyed the learning curve, fascinating experience dealing with a publisher, especially because a lot of people look up to me and they're like, "Oh, TK, I like your poetry," and I'm like, "Yeah, my editor first said, my poetry is like this," and everyone was like, "Oh." So it was just a nice experience for me because I like that type of criticism. I think this is a great opportunity to say it. My experience within the poetry space, people always have this naive take on poetry, so it's almost like I could recite the worst written poem and most people would still just, compliment it's a good poem. So having someone who is very experienced to look at my work and be like, "No, this is actually really bad."
Oh yeah, it's constructive feedback.
Yeah, it's like, "TK, your poetry is so bad I couldn't finish editing it." That's what the editor said. But then, she was willing to at least help and take me through the process and get the book published. So it was an interesting journey. And moving on to the second and last piece. This is the last time I am performing this piece in Bloom. I think its shelf life has expired. I need to start performing. I don't perform a lot, so I must really thank the organizers for the opportunity. It's quite awkward sometimes. I'm like, I'm not preparing to perform, not preparing an event. Cool. This one has a title. It's called I Am Still Walking. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of my father's death, I see the sky's skin becoming rich in melanin, no different from the black taxed ink in my pen, the one I used to eat sad poems for dinner. Somber clouds are gathering, like smoke screens and super-nuclear spiritual weapons formed against me. They prospered, buried the brightest star. I am now struggling to see my silver lining faith. Maybe my faith is just tired like silence. At least silence is golden. But most of my friends have become gold miners, mining their own business. The deepness of thunder's voice breaks the silence, brings tears from heaven to meet the earth's delicate crust. Impatient and strong winds are panicking, whispering temptations with polluted tongues, as if they are running out of time, like my mother's fragile voice. Can you hear it? Of course not. She sounds like God's amazing grace, religiously holding on to aging and faithful lungs, with enough space to still carry his breath, while slowly and gently being dragged back to an impatient heaven, via her country of birth, through soil and dust that both envy her skin, but I digress, back to the valley of the shadow of my father's death. My fervent prayers taste like broken magic spells, tasteless, but with enough faith to move the wrong mountains, even with my geographical tongue. It's a miracle how, after all this time, I still have an appetite for God's daily bread. And my appetite for God's daily bread is still intact like parts of my broken family tree. I can still taste the cold shoulders that were part of my father's balanced diet. And when the tears from heaven no longer quench my thirst, I drink from the salty rivers that meandered past my tear glands, as if I had an acquired taste for pungent, cursed blessings. I wonder why I'm always hungry enough to wrestle with God. I can smell the wet ashes from my brother's questions that have burned for too long. I can smell an anointing that diluted my bloodline, passed down from one generation to the next. I can smell my soaked garment of praise. It still fits, sometimes feels heavier than my spirit. I can smell the angel of death breathing down my neck, searching for signs and wonders in order to predict my final step. My body has learned how to stop shivering. My skin has become winter, turned my hands and feet into cold fronts. I am drenched, like temples of saints after baptism. I am still walking through the valley of the shadow of my father's death. But it is not evil that I fear. My biggest fear is that I am no longer afraid of becoming one of the shadows of death too. Thank you.